discuss about the lesson 7, which is the topic of economic integration and cooperation. So, economic integration is the process of several countries forming a group to improve trade and reduce barriers. It creates an agreement that outlines economic policies and regulations between the countries. So, an example of economic integration is the North American Free Trade Agreement, or the NAFTA. It set trade standards for the US, Mexico, and Canada, but also allows all three countries to freely trade with other countries. So there are three major ways to approach such agreements. We have the global integration. So a global integration refers to the process of increasing the degree of economic and political integration among countries around the world. This can be done through a variety of means, including treaties, trade agreements, and infrastructure projects. An example is that countries from all over the world decide to cooperate through the World Trade Organization because it aspires for free trade by binding its members with international commitments in terms of access to the goods and services markets, the use of economic policy instruments affecting trade, and the state of support of agriculture. The Philippines has been a WTO member since January 1, 1995, and the WTO accession provided new impetus for the government's long-term efforts to provide trade and industrial structure and performance, as it created profitable new opportunities in new and expanded markets for various local products. So the second is the bilateral integration. This refers to the process of two specific entities, often countries, forming a closer relationship or partnership. So example, last July 31, 2023, there was a signing of bilateral agreement between the Philippines and the European Union, relaunching the free trade negotiations, which can be a springboard for new technological operation between the two parties as part of modernizing the economy. In addition, the EU extended $66 million grant to the Philippines to support its circular economy, renewable energy, and climate change mitigation. So, here, the countries involved provide each other access to their markets, which leads to trade and economic growth. The third integration is the regional integration. So, this is the process by which neighboring countries or regions come together to increase cooperation and interaction. A regional integration aims to promote mutual benefits, enhance trade, and address common challenges among member states. Example, the European Union, headquartered in Brussels, Belgium, is the most highly evolved example of regional integration in the world. The European Union has eliminated barriers to trade, uses a common external tariff and quota system, does not restrict movement among member nations, and has coordinated macroeconomic policies and a regional currency. Okay, so to sum up, the difference between global, bilateral, and regional integration is that a global integration is an integration among countries among the world. So in the bilateral integration, only two countries economically cooperate with one another, whereas in regional integration, several countries within the same geographic distance become joined to form organizations. Trade groups, whether global, bilateral, or regional, are important influence on multinational enterprise strategies because they can define the size of the regional market and the rules under which a company must operate. In fact, an increase in market size is their single most important reason for existing.
The World Trade Organization is a group that assists countries in trading with each other. It facilitates conversations and agreements to reduce trade barriers, such as taxes on goods. It also ensures that countries adhere to the trade rules they have agreed upon and resolves disputes when countries have disagreement about trade. The most favored nation are the MFN and dispute settlement. The WTO continued the MFN under the JATT, which gina-implement nila nga dapat ang mga member countries ma-trade without discrimination or maghatag national treatment sa mga foreign products. Although may mga restrictions ang WTO sa official members, May exceptions man sila nga gina-allow, and these are Philippine countries' manufactured products have been given preferential treatment over those from industrial countries. Means, ang mga products nga halin sa developing countries like Indonesia, pwede nga mapanubo ang ilang nga taxes or makakuha sila other advantages compared sa mga products nga halin sa industrial countries like US or China to help developing countries grow their economies. Second, concessions granted to members within a regional trading alliance, such as the EU, have not been extended to countries outside the alliance. For example, sa groups like EU get special trade advantages like lower taxes on imports pag mag-trade sila sa ila lang man nga member countries. Pero, ang countries nga gwa sa European Union like Japan, they don't get these advantages pag mag-sell sila sa ilang mga products to the European Union. This happens because may mga groups of countries nga gusto nila smooth lang ang ilang nga transactions kay kagrupo lang nga nila ang ilang nga trade. The third exemption is countries can raise barriers against member countries where they feel are trading unfairly. Countries put up barriers like taxes para ma-protect nila ang ilang mga businesses kung matiyag nila unfair ang trading sa ila sa ibang nga countries. Pero kisa, ang unfair sa ila, okay lang man sa ibang nga countries, and that could lead to arguments. So para ma-fix kini nga issues, the WTO help countries create trade agreements with the rules for fair trading. So the next topic is bilateral agreements. A bilateral agreement is a deal between two parties, usually agreements ng countries or groups to work together for common purpose or goal to solve a problem. Bilateral agreement give countries more control over their trade policies and terms of trade than multilateral setting because countries may have to make more concessions or adjustments and may have less control over the outcome. So the next topic is regional economic integration. Regional economic integration is when neighboring countries agree to reduce or get rid of trade barriers like tariffs and quotas to make it easier to trade goods and services between them. This also means working together on economic policies, creating a shared market, and using a common currency. For example, the European Union. European Union or the EU is a group of 27 countries in Europe that work together. Ginalaw nila ang goods, services, money and people to move freely between their countries. The EU has its own money, the euro, nga ginagamit sa 19 countries. The EU sets common rules for things like farming, fishing, and helping regions develop. Why geography matters? Geography is important in economic cooperation because it affects trade, shared resources, and building costs. Neighboring countries can use shared resources for growth. Land features impact the ease and cost of building infrastructure like roads and power systems, which are vital for economic collaboration. Geography determines the advantages and challenges of economic cooperation.
From the standpoint of tariff reduction, the two main types of agreements are free trade agreement and customs unions. Free trade agreement typically involve the reduction or elimination of tariffs, which are taxes or duties imposed on imported goods. This makes it more cost-effective for businesses to export and import products. By harmonizing regulations and standards, FTAs make it easier for products across borders. FTAs grants businesses greater access to the markets of the participating countries. This allows companies to expand their customer base and reach new consumers and partner countries. The rules of a region to determine which products qualify for preferential treatment. For example, to benefit from reduced tariffs, a certain percentage of a product's components may need to be resourced from within the FTA region. Overall, the primary goal of a free trade agreement is to promote economic growth and cooperation between participating countries by reducing trade barriers and fostering a more open and competitive international trading environment. In a customs union, member countries not only eliminate trade barriers, such tariffs and quotas, as in a free trade agreement, but they also establish a common external tariffs and open a unified set of trade policies. Member countries agree to adopt a common external tariffs. This means that they change the same import duties on goods from non-member countries. This helps create a unified and consistent trade policy towards the rest of the world. Member countries may negotiate trade agreements with non-member countries collectively rather than individually. This collective approach can give the customs union more bargaining power on the international stage. Prominent examples of customs union include the European Union, which is a customs union and a single market, and the Southern African Customs Union. This arrangement aims to promote deeper economic integration and facilitate trade between countries while presenting a unified stance to the rest of the world. Next is the effects of integration. Regional economic integration can affect member countries in social, cultural, political, and economic ways. Economic integration is beneficial in many ways, as it allows countries to specialize and trade without government interference, which can benefit all economies. It results in a reduction of cost and ultimately an increase in overall wealth. Static and dynamic effects. Regional economic integration reduces or eliminates those barriers for members countries, producing both static and dynamic effects. Static effects are termed as the effects which are stated by the reallocation of manufacturing and utilization of products. That is the effect caused due to the implementation of customs union, the sector of health, wealth, and fortunes. And then customs unions has effects on trade, welfare, balance of payments, and growth. Effects other than trade effects are mainly dynamic effects, which can be summarized as competitiveness, technological development, scale economies, resource allocation, and investment.
Trade creation is an economic concept that occurs when a country joins a regional trade agreement like a free trade area or custom union and starts trading more with member countries than with non-member countries. This is because the removal of trade barriers within the agreement make it easier and cheaper to trade with member countries. For example, imagine two countries, country A and country B, that are part of a regional free trade agreement. Before the agreement, both countries had tariffs and trade restrictions in place. Once they join the agreement, these trade barriers are eliminated for trade between them. As a result, businesses in country A can now import goods from country B more easily at a lower cost. Similarly, businesses in country B can export their products to country A without facing the previous barriers. This leads to increased trade between these two countries, benefiting both economies by creating new trade opportunities and fostering economic growth. This is an example of trade creation. Trade diversion. Trade diversion occurs when a regional trade agreement or RTA or a new trade policy leads to a shift in trade pattern that is detrimental to non-member countries. Here's a simplified examples. Let's say there are two countries, country A and country B, and they have been trading freely with each other. They both produce and trade car and computers. The price of a car in country A is lower than the price in country B. So country B imports car from country A. And the same is true for computers. Now, regional trade agreement is formed between country A and a new country C. This agreement reduces or eliminates tariffs and trade barriers between country A and country C. As a result, it becomes cheaper for country C to import cars from country A. Trade diversion occurs because even though country B still produces cheaper cars than country A, it starts importing fewer cars from country A, and the more from country C due to the trade agreement. This happens because preferential terms in the agreement, even if it's less economically efficient for country B, so trade diversion in these examples means that the country B diverts its car imports from country A to country C due to the new trade agreement, even though country A may have been a more efficient and cost-effective trading partner for country B. This can negatively impact of the economy of country A. The difference between the two is that the trade creation leads to welfare gains as it promotes trade between countries that have a comparative advantages and can produce goods or services more efficiently. On the other hand, trade diversion can lead to welfare losses as it diverts trade away from more efficient and non-member countries toward less bitaw. Economies of scales refer to the cost advantages that a company or organization can achieve as it increases the level of production or scale of operation. In simpler terms, it means that as a company produces more goods or services, its average cost per unit decreases. Why is it that economies of scale are important? It is important because they allow companies to lower their costs, increase their efficiency, and potentially offer more competitive prices to consumers. This can lead to increased market shares, profitability, and growth. Increased competition refers to a situation where there is a higher number of companies or individuals offering similar products or services in a particular market. This can occur due to the various factors such as market liberalization, technological advancement, globalization, or changes in consumer preferences. Increased competition can have both positive and negative effects on businesses and consumers. Positive effects of increased competition include: number 1, improved quality. These lead to innovation products, enhancement, and overall improvement in quality. Number 2, lower prices. This can benefit consumers by providing more affordable options and increasing their purchasing power. Number 3, increased efficiency. This can lead to improved production processes, cost reduction, and better resource allocation. Number 4, customer focus. This can result in better customer service, customized offerings, and a greater emphasis on meeting customers' expectations. Increased competition can also have negative effects. Number 1, market consolidation. Intense competition can lead to market consolidation where smaller players struggle to compete and larger companies gain more market power. This can potentially limit choices for consumers and reduce diversity in the market. Number 2, price wars. In highly competitive markets, businesses may engage in price wars to attract customers. While this can benefit consumers in the short term, it may lead to unsustainable pricing strategies and potential harm to smaller competitors. Barriers to entry. If competition becomes too intense, it may create high barriers to entry for new players. This can limit innovation and entrepreneurship as smaller businesses find it challenging to enter the market and compete with established players. Quality compromises. In some cases, increased competition may lead to cost-cutting measures that compromise product quality or service standards. Businesses may prioritize cost reduction over maintaining optimal quality. Overall, while increased competition can bring several benefits to consumers and the market, it's important to strike a balance to ensure fair competition, promote innovation, and protect the interests of all stakeholders.